Hi, I'm Larry Buxton. Welcome to Leading with Spirit. These are weekly videos on character and leadership and how they impact life in businesses, organizations, congregations, teams, and even families. Leading with Spirit is built on the groundwork from my book, 30 Days with King David on Leadership, published by Front Edge Publishing. And today is another one of sporadic conversations with leadership coaches, people who work with leaders and executives in a variety of fields and give us insight on what's happening in leadership today. Margot Halstead, my guest today, is the founder of Orahill LLC. She has an MBA, a PMP, and a PCC coaching certificate. Margot works with lawyers, government contractors, C-suite executives, military people, and as her website reminds us, and I found to be true, is a hard driver with a soft inside. Margot, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me, Larry. It's good to see you.
It's a privilege. We were talking earlier about toxic environments and your experience working with people in so-called toxic environments. Let's focus on that for a second. What's going on in a place that we might call a toxic environment?
Well, I think there's two parts to it. And one is focusing on what people refer to as a toxic culture or a toxic workplace. But then there's the other way of looking at it, which is really it's a toxic person creating an environment that appears and is perceived and truly feels toxic.
And you've said how one person's behavior, especially in the leadership position, really has a pervasive effect on the whole organization.
Yeah. When we focus on it and when we hear about it and read about toxic cultures and toxic workplaces or even toxic families or toxic teams, we tend to use that as an overarching term that the entirety is toxic. But really, when we think about it, it is just one person. And whether it's a leader with a title or a leader that's an influencer on that team, it still is the leader, the one with power. And they are somehow given or allowed to be more powerful with their toxic behavior.
That's a good point. They're influential people in every organization who may not have the title, but if their behavior contributes to negativity, it also means the rest of the organization's not taking responsibility for challenging or dealing with that person as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's sort of what we need. When we read about how to handle a toxic culture, there's a couple ways of sort of looking at it. It's do we survive the toxic culture? And there's lots of books and magazines around articles around how to survive, like there's nothing we can do about it. And then there's others that really focus on the root, and the root cause is one person or maybe a few people who really are exhibiting toxic behaviors that really need to be attended to. And once they are, then we find the entirety of the toxic culture sort of dissolves and goes back to its new state of being.
So are there some kind ways that we could have an important or necessary conversation with somebody in a toxic environment that we think could actually change the environment? How can we address or talk to a particular person?
If you are in a position to do that, then absolutely be courageous, lean in and ask. A lot of times people who are leaking these toxic behaviors are not aware of it. And so by caring and noticing that, hey, Larry, these behaviors I've noticed you've been leaking, be specific. It's not like you. I've been thinking about you and I wanted to bring it to your attention and see if there's any way that I can help you. And most of the time, those toxic people have not been asked those questions because natural reaction makes us want to lean out for safety and we don't attend to, we just hope somebody else does.
And you're approaching that from a place of real caring that I could feel just as the example rather than being criticized.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, how much do you want to talk to me? Larry, would you really stop doing XYZ because it's really irritating everybody around the office? Well, isn't that motivational?
Yeah.
Not at all.
And how would we make sure that we aren't the person in our organization that's bringing toxicity into it unawares?
Mm. That takes a lot of self-awareness and also a willingness to ask. And so we have 360 tools and performance feedback processes and all the rest of it. But sometimes we just have to go out and ask our colleagues as a matter of untimed, unsolicited feedback of, could you tell me if there's anything I am unintentionally doing
Mm.
that is making this environment, this team, this process not work? Because I want to make sure that I participate fully.
Yeah,
Be
sometimes
surprised.
that's a courage that leaders don't think of when they think of, I
Mhm.
want to be a courageous leader, but it does require courage to make yourself vulnerable.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
well worth it.
Margot Halstead, thank you so much. Margot, working with all sorts of environments, including toxic environments. If people would like to get in touch with you for pursuing this, how can they do that?
So my email is mhalstead@orahill.com, and that's ORAHILL. And I would welcome any connection.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you, as always, for those of you who watch and support and encourage Leading with Spirit. I'm Larry Buxton. Blessings to you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.